Okay, so here in these notes, we are going to start talking about one-step equations. And remember, in order to solve an equation, these are not an expression, these are equations, they have equal sign. We use the inverse operation, or the opposite operation. So if we have addition, the opposite of addition is subtraction, and if we have subtraction, the opposite of subtraction is addition. So we're undoing. So we're going to take a look here at the first 6 problems, and I'm going to look at number 1. Now remember, when we take our notes, it's important that you write out all of the headings and the problems. So take your time, use the pause button, and then come back when you're ready. In number 1, I have negative 3 equals k plus 3. Now, I'm solving for k, and what's attached to k? Well, everything on the right-hand side. So attached to k, I have plus 3. Well, how do I undo plus 3? Or add 3, I subtract 3. Now, this is an equation, and I'm going across the equal sign. I'm moving over, so what I do to one side, I'm actually moving it to the other side. So undo on one side, move to the other. And negative 3, subtract 3. Well, they're both negative, so add and keep, so that would be negative 6. Bring down your equal sign. The k is going to drop straight down, and 3 and negative 3 will cancel, or they would add to 0, and we don't write the plus 0 anymore. So I have negative 6 equals k, or that would be the same as saying k equals negative 6. And that's my answer. Now I could double check that. I could put that back in and double check to make sure I had it right. Does negative 3 equal negative 6 plus 3? I don't know, does negative 3 equal, what's negative 6 plus 3? They're different. One's negative, one's positive, so we're going to subtract, and 6 minus 3 is 3, and we keep the sign of the 6, so negative 3 equals negative 3, so that does check. That does work. So let's take a look at number 2. Number 2, I have b minus 2 equals negative 5. Now what am I solving for? Right, the unknown is b. What's attached to b? What's on the same side of the equal sign as b? Well, subtract 2. How would I undo subtract 2? How would I move it? I would have to add 2. And what I do to one side of an equation, I must do to the other in order to keep the balance of my equation. Remember that balance on that equal sign. So the b is going to drop straight down. Negative 2 plus 2, well, that's what we were undoing. We told that to cancel. Equal sign comes down, and negative 5 plus 2, well, negative 5 plus 2 is negative 3. So I would say that my final answer would be b equals negative 3. And please put that box around so we can find those answers. So now we're looking at number 3. 5.6 plus z equals negative 8. What am I solving for? Number 1. The unknown is the variable, which is z. So what's attached to z? Well, attached to z is 5.6. And how is 5.6 attached to z? Now be careful here. That positive in front of that z belongs to the z. What about that 5.6? Is there anything in front of it that says it's not positive? Does it say it's negative? If it doesn't say it's negative, then it is positive, right? If we want to write positive 1, we just write positive 1. So this is positive 5.6. Well, how would I undo positive 5.6? I would subtract it. What I do to one side of an equation, I have to keep that balance. What I do to one side, I must do to the other. So the positive 5.6 and a negative 5.6, that's what I undid. That was my undo. I'm going to bring down the z. I'm going to bring down the equals. And negative 8 and negative 5.6, when I combine them, I'm adding them together. They're both negative. So same signs just means that they're going to be more negative. So negative 8.0, or 8 plus 5.6 would be, that's right, 13.6. So my final answer, z equals negative 13.6. Now let's look at number 4. Number 4 says I have x minus 7 equals negative 6. Solving for? Absolutely, we're solving for x. What's attached to x? What's on the same side? Subtract 7. How do you undo subtract 7? Yeah, you add 7. What I do to one side, remember, keep in balance. what I do to one side, I must do to the other. I'm going to bring the x down. The negative 7 and the positive 7, that's what we did as mathematicians. We told that to go away. We bring down the equal sign, and negative 6 plus 7. Negative 6 plus 7, different signs, so we're going to subtract. 7 minus 6 is 1, and the 7 is positive, so that's going to be x equals 1. Number 5, I have y plus 3.4 equals 0.5. Now what am I solving for? Yes, I'm solving for y. What's attached to y? Plus 3.4. How do I undo plus 3.4? I subtract 3.4. And I have an equal sign, which means I have to keep my balance. What I do to one side, I must do to the other. My y comes straight down. Positive 3.4 and negative 3.4. As a mathematician, this is what I was undoing. So I'm going to go ahead and cross those off. Equals 0.5 and negative 3.4. So we're taking 0.5 and subtracting 3.4. Remember, those are different signs, a positive and a negative. So we would subtract 3.4, subtract 0.5. Now, if you have a calculator, that's fine. But if you don't, you could also do it this way. 4 minus 5, I'm going to have to borrow. 14 minus 5 is 9. Bring the decimal down, bring down the 2. So 2.9. Positive or negative, be careful here. The 3.4 was negative, so that means the 2.9 must be negative. So my final answer would be y equals negative 2.9. Now we have one more. Number 6. H plus 2 pi equals 3 pi. What are we solving for? Think about that. H plus 2 pi equals 3 pi. What do you think the variable is? And don't let the pi fool you. Pi is not a variable. Pi is the same every single time. Or think about it. X could be one number, one problem, and a different problem it might be a different answer. So one time it might be 2, next time it might be 3. But here, pi is always pi. So pi is a constant. So I'm not going to subtract that pi off. I'm actually looking for the h. So think about it that way. H is my variable. What's attached to h? Plus 2 pi. Plus 2 pi. How do I undo addition? Subtraction. So I'm going to subtract 2 pi. This is an equation, so I have to stay in balance. What I do to one side, I must do to the other to move it. H is going to drop. 2 pi and negative 2 pi, those are going to cancel. We move them as mathematicians. Bring down our equals. 2 pi minus, or 3 pi minus 2 pi. Think about that. 3 pi minus 2 pi. Well, that would just be 1 pi. And just like a variable, we don't write the 1 in front. So h equals pi. Now that was a little bit harder to think about, but nice work, nice work. So that talks about the addition and subtraction properties of equality. How do we undo addition? We use subtraction. How do we undo subtraction? We use addition. And remember, we are talking about equations, therefore we must always stay in balance. What I do to one side, by moving on one side to the other, what I do to one side, I have to move it across the equal sign to the other side.